um, sorry, is that a comment? Particularly me. All right, let's check out this video from 1010 then, shall we, guys? The state of Wuthering Waves right now. Kind of a good video to watch off the back of that Gamba video in regards to the drip marketing. I know this is probably not talking about that, but just thought it's relevant. Check it out then, see what it's got to say.
I want to take a moment to talk about the state of Wuthering Waves with you today, because
Okay.
after 6 months of release, I think the game is not in a great state. Don't get me wrong, I love Wuthering Waves. I play this game daily, and I even stream this game almost regularly on Twitch, twitch.tv/IM1010. But I think the game is really good in its core. The characters are really, really fun. And
agree with all his points so far. I'll be interested to see why he thinks the game's not in a great state, though.
And when it comes down to gacha game, the main thing that you play for is to collect cool characters that are cool and fun, and they do this extremely well.
Yep.
It's just that,
in my opinion, some of the best. I really like the characters in PGR though as well. I'll admit though, I think Ace has got some pretty cool looking characters, and I'm not saying that Kuro's the only guys that do this, but I just personally, for me, I think they've got some really cool characters in the game. And please make Yarn resonate to Kuro. What are you waiting for, man? You will make bank with that.
they don't have anything else. I think Wuthering Wave characters are extremely fun. Each of them has some unique mechanics that make them super satisfying, super fun to watch, and they're all super flashy without being like overly on top too difficult and stuff like that. On top of that, their thematic is on point every single time. Jian is like a peak husbando characters. In it's like a peak Bambi characters. And then you got all the other characters like Changli, super fire characters like a feed.
Hey, put some respect on Jinxi's name, man. Put some respect on Jinxi's name.
Stashing around the battlefield. You got Jinxi, who is completely lore accurate because you got the power of Jue on her side, and you summon this big ass lasers with Jue in your battle. I think these are super on point thematic, and they feel really great to play. But the problem is, I feel like the game just doesn't have enough content to warrant you to want to like log in to play the game.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I agree with this. I think some people in the community don't really like to hear this stuff sometimes, but I agree with this. But I think at the same time, I feel like we'll get to the point where it has enough content. And sometimes, you know, I get the comments of like, you know, let them cook, you know. But we are, what, 6 months post-launch now. I feel like we should be in a bit better of a position with the content. And for me, a massive part of that is I just think the Terror of Adversity is not it for endgame content. Because at the minute, it's kind of the main endgame, isn't it? I know you can say that you've got the holograms as well, but you're really just playing your own game then, aren't you? You're just like, well, let me solo them, let me change different teams, let me maybe nerf myself, and you set your own challenges, so to speak. The Terror of Adversity, obviously we've got the Elusive Realm, awesome, but that's not permanent. You know, I'd like to see more put into the Elusive Realm, if I'm honest, and that become a bit bigger of a part of the end game. But I feel like some stuff needs to be either added to the game or the Terror needs tweaking. Again, we saw with 1.3, Zenly Zone Zero's getting this mode where it's going to be like an infinite tower where you just keep going, and certain phases you can re-heal your character and then you keep going until you can heal your character again. I don't know if it is truly infinite or what. I'd like to see something like that personally. That's something I've been asking for a while. One thing I do like the new event that we've got, but I'd take, you know, the last little fight from the event when you've just got a timer. Not a timer that's counting down. Well, what it is, but you've got like a set amount of time just to get as much points, basically. And it's more about you don't fail if you don't get something done within a certain time or defeat them. It's just kill as many mobs as you can and then how many points you get. Because I feel like that'd be good for, obviously, free-to-play players as well. But it'll be really good for Wales because they can, you know, maybe there'll be a leaderboard as well that resets on a weekly basis and they can race against other Wales because they've got everybody S6 and they're doing insane damage. I do feel like we've got a content problem, and I think it's the end game mostly, and I think the events at the moment could definitely be better. I do feel like they could be better. I'm confident that they're going to get better. But yeah, I think the state we're in now, they could be better.
Which means you don't get to play with the characters. The characters are fun, but you gotta have a reason to play with these characters after all. And right now, the way I would describe it is like Wedding Wave feels like a game where you have like a 6-week patch cycles, but 1 week of content every 6 weeks of patch cycle. This is super noticeable because at the end of the patch, they always just recycle the same event. Whether that be like the exploration event where you get like 100 survey point, or like the double drop event. Without fail, it's always just recycle event.
I do want to say something on the Infinite Battle Simulation as well. I do like the Infinite Battle Simulation. I still think it's the best event, but I think the second phase of the event is nowhere near as good as the first phase. I don't know if it's because the dash element that you get in that just kind of sucks. It's not as nowhere near as good as a plunge element that you got, which it's not always going to be as good as a particular part in that mode in regards to like the quirk, the gimmick of that particular. But I don't know if it was the layout of the area, but I just felt like I was like a little bit more lost. Like, oh, I need to make sure I'm covering. I've got all the chests. Where the other area, I think, because where it was a little bit more contained. It felt a little bit better. So, and they're not all going to be as good as each other. But yeah, definitely for the first phase was definitely better than the second phase in the Infinite Battle Simulation.
But every single patch where you just basically do the same thing as you're doing, but you get more material. Speaking of material, I feel like there isn't like a strong reason for you to acquire more material to develop your characters because the endgame is just so easy. I feel like the
compact. I mean, like apart from the bit where you go up and out of the crater, everything feels like it's kind of, you can see everything. You know what I mean? Where like in the newer area, I felt like, I suppose it was more of a placebo effect because it's more open. I know you can't go to the areas, but because it's flatter, I felt like I was visually getting lost in looking for stuff, if that makes sense. I felt like I was finding myself being like, if I missed a chest, which I tend to do anyway because I don't really pay attention, but I just felt like that a little bit more. It didn't feel, I don't know, it just didn't feel as concise as the first phase.
The only reason to really acquire material is if you want to perfect your characters, max out absolutely every single thing because you really care about them, or to prepare for new characters release, which if you're a free-to-play, you probably won't get every characters anyway. The tower in Wuthering Waves Endgame right now feels like a pure DPS check, and by pure DPS check, I mean you basically just go in and you do a rotation for like 2.
And I don't even mind a DPS check in a game like this, but I don't want that to be the entirety of the end game. You know what I mean? I want something that feels a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more. It's just, I think it's kind of a whack end game, if I'm honest. It really isn't all that. Like the tower potentially would be better, like now as we get further into the game. If it was more of a daily reset than a weekly reset, then it might be a bit more interesting. But even still, I don't find it enjoyable, if I'm honest.
2 minutes and you kill whatever comes on the way, and that's it. You don't need to care about dodging, you don't care about parrying, which is supposed to be the core of the game. It isn't some kind of like skillful combat where you carefully maneuver your way around the enemy. There's like no dynamic at all. You just go in, you hit your button.
And as well, the whole idea of the tower was supposed to be this place where you go to train to improve, wasn't it? You know what I mean? It's like this physical spot in the world, but it doesn't feel like that at all. Like the tower, like they should build it out so it feels like kind of like an academy where you go to get better, where resonators go to train, and there's different elements to it that feels like a training session for resonators to improve, to get better, and different parts of it as well.
And they just die. And I did this by proving it as well, right? I recently did a blindfold run on Lean Gang where I was able to completely 3-star the 2 chamber in the middle, which have the level 100 enemies, and they're supposed to be the tankiest enemy of the tower. In my blindfold run, you can
see, like, I think I've got a different reason why I'm not keen on the tower, because sometimes I know people do like to flex a little bit like this. Well, I can do it with any character, I can do it blindfolded. Not everybody can, and that's not my problem with it. It's not that it's an easy mode or it's just purely a DPS check. I just think it's mid. You know what I mean? I just think it's mid in general. There's always going to be people who are really good at certain things in a game and are going to be able to clear content way easier, and their perception of the content is going to differ because of that. It's like, well, that's easy mode, bro. This ain't even a challenge. That might not be the same for other people who might really struggle on something. Or just don't have the time to pour into the game, but still want something where they get to come and do some sort of end-game content as well.
See, I basically just memorized my entire rotation, and I basically just pressed all my button in a certain order, and then everything just worked out, and that's all really it. I didn't do a single dodge because
we need more mechanics to some of these end-game fights, don't we?
Parry. Well,
you know, like MMO type mechanics is what I'm talking about.
None of the parry were like a skillful timing thing. I basically just mashed all my button in the right order, which is my rotation.
I think Terra Fantasy do a good thing with that. I know that game's more than an MMO.
Got to a point where the tower feels more like a chore to clear every reset than a challenge, especially because this is true for every single boss and every single enemy they have put in the tower so far. There hasn't been a new enemy where you have to change up your strategy. It's always you put the same team in, you click your button in the same order, and they die. Yeah, I'll say my daily on same thing. The Heron, same thing. You
Genshin.
always do the
And
same.
it takes so
What's he doing here? I know he's showing off something against you, but like, I think he needs to sort the audio a little bit.
You
long
don't
because
ever
you have to like
adopt
run
the
around
anime
and
pattern.
stuff.
You don't even need to.
Oh my
dodge.
god, I have the storm.
I don't know, there's two conversations going on, bro. I can't hear you properly.
Click your button. And ironically speaking, I think Genshin Impact Endgame is actually harder. Now, I know people hate that I mention Genshin Impact all the time, but I think it's true. And I'm talking about this using my previous experience back in like 3.0 or something like that. I think back in my days when I was playing Genshin, the endgames were actually a lot more challenging than the current state of Wuthering Waves Endgame. Specifically, I remember there are stuff like where they're like 2 geovision, you have to like position yourself in a certain way so they will like come to you, and you have to like make sure they group, you have to like go to the wall, and you have to like make sure they are like walking in a certain way and stuff like that. And then of course Genshin Impact is a little more janky, so therefore it's like a little more challenging.
I agree. I think it's the weakest part of this game. I think the end game in this game. And I think that's a big factor why people are drifting away from it, because at the end of the day, gacha game, it's about the waifus, and then it's about getting to that end game, isn't it? You know what I mean? Between your stories, because that's what's going to keep you there between the stories. It's the end game. It's events and end game, and we're lacking in those two massively in this game. That's the biggest factor. I think that's what it is. You know, you can argue about all different things, but I think if the events and end game was just substantially better, I think there'd be way less of these conversations going on in the Wuthering Waves community in regards to content and where the game is at now. And I need new stuff, give me new stuff, because you would be satiated for a little bit in between that sort of stuff, wouldn't you?
Because you gotta like funnel your energy, you gotta save your energy for the next fight. And there's also the Abyss card system where it gives you a little more dynamic in Genshin Impact. Now, I want to make a very big disclaimer that I don't know if this is true with the current states of Genshin Impact. I kind of watch my friends play sometimes, and I see them just like hitting a thing that stay in the middle and like do nothing else, so maybe I'm wrong. But I actually have been recently playing a little bit of Genshin Impact just because one of my friends like got me back into it, and it has been really fun so far. And I'll be trying the new Abyss sometimes next week on stream, so you might want to tune in just to see like if my opinion change. Now, don't get me wrong, Wuthering Waves do pump out banger content from time to time. Specifically, like when they added a new hologram, Hologram Crownless was like perfect. I think Hologram Crownless is like one of the best fight ever. It's like
That's one thing I will say. The one-on-one boss fights in Wuthering Waves are like top tier. You know, they're proper boss fights, especially the holograms as you go up the levels. You know, like 5 and 6 and 4. There's patterns. It's not about how powerful I am. You know what I mean? It's about skill check, basically. It's about your dodging, your parry capability, learning their new sequences and their attack patterns and stuff. And that was one of the really interesting things when you first got into Wuthering Waves. I want to see more of that stuff being brought to us. You know, now I know that's a little bit harder to do, but maybe just work on creating different patterns for certain bosses and bringing in new animations and attacks and stuff, and throwing that into some different content as well. And again, adding boss mechanics as well, I think could be interesting.
actually dynamic, and it's like basically play to the game core essence, like dodging, parrying, and then doing your character's combo all in one and stuff like that. Inferno Rider was a little janky because you kind of just spam meteor. But
It's 6 level 6 Inferno Rider is just annoying. It's just straight just boo 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 boo. It's so annoying.
something like that I feel like are cool. It's just like we kind of get them once in the blue moon. The same way in Elusive Realm, it's a really cool game mode whenever they add a new character.
Best game mode in the game, really.
You can play the new characters in your regular way, in your hologram and your tower, and then here is a new way to make them super insane that it's also fun to play. The Shangli Yao combo in the Elusive Realm was super fun. You like basically perma time stop and stuff like that. I think all of these are super fun and super cool to play whenever we do get them. Again, new characters, super fun to play because Wuthering Waves characters are really well designed. They're just fun to play in general. Elusive Realm game mode or other game modes, super fun to play whenever we get a new one, usually followed by new characters. And of course, new hologram or new boss in general are super cool, super fun to figure out.
I'd like to hear that actually. What's people's general opinion of the Tower of Adversity? Other than like rewards and I guess a way to like really get an idea of the sort of damage output you're getting off characters in terms of a DPS check, I suppose, and maybe flexing and a bit of bragging. Is the mode actually good? You know, do you feel like when there's a reset on the tower, you're like, oh, can't wait to play tower? Or is it just like, yes, I've got to clear tower kind of thing? Because I don't want my end game to be that. Now, I know it's always going to be that sometimes because at the end of the day, it's Endgame. And when you're playing this sort of game, you're always going to be in that point where you're like, well, I've got to clear this today to do this. It's, it's part of the chore. But for most of the time, it should be, can't wait to do this today. This will be fun. Oh, they've switched it up. This is going to be really enjoyable to do. I don't get that with the tower.
Like how they actually work. The thing is that there's so little. It always feels like they give you like a taste. They give you like a bite, right? And then they're like, oh, this feels good. This tastes good. I want
and
more.
Snatch it away
But
from
there's
you.
no more. You always get like just a bite and there's like no more, and it left you like undesired. And I feel like that's what's the problem is right now. It just feels so bad. I get that where the problem is because
it's like a la carte. That's what for me, Wuthering Waves is. It's an a la carte menu. You know, it's this really good looking, pristine plate of food that's super tasty using some of the best ingredients, but you get 2 mouthfuls and it's gone, because it's designed to be like 12 courses for each freaking plate. It's like, dude, what the, normal person like me, you're like, wump, oh, it's gone now. And then you're just like, I want more. You know what I mean? I feel that's exactly what Wuthering Waves is.
Kuro games, unlike HoYoverse, doesn't have the same amount of funding. In fact, they have significantly less funding, so they can't pump out content the same way like Genshin Impact are able to do it, right? And that's kind of one of the things that make Genshin shine right now, is because they have so much money, they're able to just dump into it and just pump content. When they do a 6-week patch cycles, I think they get like 4 weeks of content, right? And they're like actual content, not like the survey, not like the spinning hamsters, not like the double drop, right? I logged into Genshin just...
Yeah, like for me, that sort of stuff I don't class as content, it's rewards, things like, I guess you could call it content, but like, the Lolo logistical, it's not really content, is it? A double drop on a normal mode that you play anyway, it's not really content. It's an event, I guess you can say. You're getting extra stuff, but I wouldn't call it content. It's not like, whoa, that was cool. It's just like, hey, I got double drops, great for building characters in the future.
Like recently, and then there was like this co-op event, which was actually surprisingly really fun. Now, I feel
this
like
is the sort of stuff I was talking about with Genshin, these sort of modes where it's a little bit abstract. Star Rail does a good thing at this as well, and Zenless looks like it's doing it as well, where you're playing the game, but you're not playing the game in the way you usually play the game, i.e. beating up monsters. You're using your characters, but you're just doing something totally different, and it feels like a little fun party game mode that's sometimes really nice to be interjected in between the normal grind of combat, I think.
I
think Wuthering Waves is missing stuff like this massively.
And I was just like, oh, look, it's my Shangli again. Boom, 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 boom. So it was like fresh. It was like nostalgia feeling, so it was fun. But also I was like with my Genshin friends, so there's like that. Speaking of Genshin friends, I feel like that's another big one. There is no community content for Wuthering Wave because the community is a lot smaller, where for Genshin Impact the community is significantly bigger. So like even when you're not playing the games, it feels like you can still interact with the Genshin Impact fandom. Also, again, HoYoverse have way more funding to host these like offline event. There is like this Arvin that it's like an hour drive from me, and they host like a bunch of HoYoverse event. I think recently for Halloween they have like a Hoyoween event. There's like a Madonna led event for Genshin Impact, and these are cool to see. These are like, oh, I can still
can't really blame that on the game though, and I know he's not, but we can't really be like, hey, there's not these local events going on. Well, that's the state of the game right now, but I get what he's saying.
Enjoy the game in ways that I didn't expect outside of the game physically with other people. I think that's super cool to see. Something Wuthering Wave probably won't see for a long time. Unfortunately, they don't even have the funding to come to like Anime Expo in America, so it's only like limited to China right now, and I feel like that's kind of sucks. Like an anime convention, you can see a lot more Genshin Impact cosplayers, well, just because the game is bigger, but that also means that you get to have more fun as a Genshin Impact player, going around taking a photo of your favorite cosplay and stuff like that. Or even recently, I went to a shop in Los Angeles with one of my friends, and I was surrounded by Genshin Impact merch. Now, there was like a small section of official Wuthering Wave merch, and we did buy some. I bought like a Ling Yang like standee, right? And my friend got like a little scar keychain. But the point is still like, when we're walking through the stores, there's like so little Wuthering Wave things that I'm like, oh look, this is Ling Yang, this is Jian. We're surrounded by so many like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rails.
Again, I understand what he's saying, but this to me has got no relevance to the game itself. We can't, it's just, it's not really relevant, is it?
Merch and stuff like that, and you get like, Genshin.
I understand what he's saying in regards to the community vibe, but that's not the game itself.
And that's like just different, Speaking of Venti, if you're wondering what this thing is, this is the VTuber that I'm currently working on. A lot of it's inspired by Venti. If you can kind of see the reassemble and kind of why it's green, you can check out 210 VT on Twitter for more.
God, bro. This is why I love the male characters in Wuthering Waves, you know? Because, like,
More detail as well as just follow it. But to basically summarize all my yapping, I feel like the game is just really dry, and that's really it. Now, I understand that it's not really Cruel Games' fault for, like, you know, not having the same amount of money and community as Hoyoverse, because that, like, just is so big in comparison, right? But as a player, it just left me, like, undecided when I get, like, a taste of the game that I want to play, and then there's, like, nothing left. Because, again, I do think the core game is great, right? Like, the characters are so fun. Maybe something like a boss rush hologram challenge would be cool, where you're like fight one hologram after the other. That would be like super difficult.
well, we kind of had that with the simulacrum thing, and I don't think it was all that great. Like, for me, I feel like they need to really, like, lean into modes that are going to keep people on the game, and that's how this game is going to be successful, in regards to that it's not just about the culture drive of new characters, you know, we're going to sell merch, everything's based around the next banner, which of course the next banner is important, but I feel like if you're attached to the brand, the IP, because it's so enjoyable across a bunch of different ways, you're going to be more likely to spend. You're going to be more likely to indulge in the culture and the community. And I think that comes from persistent events, better endgame, far better endgame. You know, I'd like, again, I've said it before, dungeons, world bosses, raid bosses, potential matchmaking things, you know, just going outside the box a little bit in some of the molds, in my opinion. I feel like everything just feels kind of safe in Wuthering Waves. I want them to try some stuff. Hey, it might be a massive failure and people might roast them for it, but I want them to try, you know what I mean? I feel like at the moment, everything feels super safe now. I want them to just go balls to the wall with some of these events. And hey, if it sucks, you know what I mean? Move on to the next one kind of thing.
But that give like a big reason for people to like max spice their characters. Maybe you can even like switch in the characters between each hologram and stuff like that. Wait, that's actually sound kind of cool. Oh, maybe I should do that. Anyway, I guess I'm back to Genshin again. Huh. I mean, everyone say 5.0 is really good, and everyone keep asking me to check it out, so welcome home, cheater. Okay, bye.
You know what? Fair. Again, I can't really argue with any of his points really, apart from that Venti image that I saw. But everything else, I think it is fair. You know, as I say, I'm not. I do want to try Genshin again. It's been a while, but I don't think I'm ever going to be like, right, I'm Genshin again, because there's just other gacha games I'd rather play, if I'm honest. And I think respect my time a little bit more. But I agree. The end game in this game is his biggest factor. Events and end game. If they can work on that, everything else will fit into place, in my opinion. Obviously, the story needs to be good and characters need to be good, but they need to sort that first. If the minute-to-minute gameplay on an average basis is lacking, who cares if there's a new banner coming out? Because what do you do with a banner if you got nothing to do? Wait for another month for content to come out regarding the story to play them as? I don't know, do a reset once every 2 weeks on Endgame? You know what I mean? Wait for the Elusive realm to drop and then clear it in a couple of days. Like, we need something that's like giving you that daily reason to play the game, and not just to log in, do your dailies and bounce, but actually play the game and absorb you into the whole ethos of the game. Because I think that's how they'll turn people into payers. Because that's what Genshin did, really. Genshin didn't just get people hyped because of banners. People, obviously the COVID buff was a thing, but people fell in love with the game, the IP, the brand recognition, and then the spending comes, you know what I mean? And I think that's where Wuthering Waves is failing a little bit, if I'm honest. But everything else, though, game's fire, you know what I mean? It is fire. They've got the base level right there. They've just gotta tweak things. I'm confident they will. I hope they will anyway.